High school teens Gary and Wyatt have long dreamed of being popular with the girls, if only they weren't such awkward outcasts. One day, they come up with the idea to create the perfect girl from a computer. They succeed at this, but the two boys have no idea what their creation is capable of. Two teenage boys are ogling a gymnasium full of high school girls. The blonde boy, Gary Wallace, fantasizes about throwing a huge party with all the girls. His friend, Wyatt Donnelly, reminds him of their outcast status, to Gary's slight irritation. The two friends continue to daydream when two other boys, Max and Ian, humiliate them by pulling their gym shorts down. As the girls stare in a mix of shock and disgust, Wyatt tries to say something, but Gary drags him out of there. Later, Gary is sleeping over at Wyatt's house, as the latter's parents are out of town. Gary is surprised his friend is left alone in the house, but Wyatt reminds him his older brother, Chet, will be home soon. Gary is displeased at this, knowing how mean Chet is. While watching Frankenstein on TV, Gary blurts out they should just create an actual girl, to Wyatt's puzzlement. Gary explains that they can use Wyatt's computer software to simulate a girl so they can ask it all kinds of lewd questions in the name of research. Wyatt agrees, and he gets to work on defining their simulation's characteristics, but is limited by his computer's capabilities. Gary convinces Wyatt to hack into a government computer system so they can use more data to create their perfect girl. Using various magazine clippings to customize their creation's physical appearance and intelligence, the two end up attaching jumper cables to a doll as their final touch. A brewing thunderstorm then electrifies Wyatt's house, causing all electronics inside to go haywire as Gary and Wyatt unplug everything to minimize the damage. After trying to smash the computer and throwing out its other components, Gary and Wyatt are left cowering from a bursting door. The door explodes, and a shapely woman in skimpy clothes steps inside the room, asking them what they want to do, much to the two's disbelief. Later, Gary and Wyatt are in the shower with their creation, doing nothing but gawk at her while she talks. She tells them to loosen up before leaving the shower, revealing the two are still wearing pants and shoes. Afterward, Gary and Wyatt discuss what to do with the girl when their mismatched clothes transform into better-looking suits, causing them to argue in confusion. The girl, already downstairs, smirks knowingly. As they head to a party in a pink convertible, Gary and Wyatt ask the girl if she stole the car. She denies this, saying she can do whatever she wants. She also asks the two to name her, and Gary suggests Lisa, prompting Wyatt to spill unsavory details about the girl. The girl accepts the name Lisa to pacify the two boys, then speeds away. They arrive at the candy bar, where Gary immediately notes they're not supposed to be there, being underage. Lisa hands Gary and Wyatt two fabricated driver's licenses, indicating they're of age. She then tricks the two self-admitted outcasts into mingling around the place to get comfortable. While Wyatt goes to the restroom, Gary and Lisa find themselves at a table with a group of intimidating-looking men. Gary awkwardly tries relating to them, but they pressure him into drinking liquor instead. One of the men named Dino asks Lisa what she's doing with Gary in an insulting way, which Lisa answers suggestively. Gary cuts in with a self-deprecating joke, making the entire table laugh. Much later, Gary, Wyatt, and Lisa have comfortably bonded with the group of men. Gary drunkenly retells an unfortunate story involving a girl, earning sympathy from his newfound friends. After Gary slumps over the table, Wyatt and Lisa carry him out of the bar, bidding the patrons goodbye. In the car, Lisa has Wyatt drive for them as Gary rambles drunkenly in the back seat. Lisa asks them what they plan to tell Chet about her, but Wyatt gets distracted, trying to think of an answer and drive at the same time. He runs a red light and almost gets into an accident several times, much to Gary's irritation. Lisa advises Wyatt yet again to think about Chet. Once they reach Wyatt's house, Chet physically intimidates Wyatt for trying to weasel out of paying a bribe. When Chet threatens to rat him out to their parents, Wyatt agrees to a $175 bribe. Afterward, as Wyatt helps Gary up the stairs, they run into Chet, spitting insults at them. Gary splutters about the girl they made, which Wyatt dismisses, letting Chet make fun of their bad luck with girls. Later that night, Lisa surprises Wyatt by kissing him a few times. Wyatt is confused at first but lets Lisa kiss him a bit longer. When Lisa asks him what's on his mind, Wyatt replies women's gymnastics, and Lisa says she'll do her best. The next morning, Wyatt and Gary wake up in a haze, wondering if everything that happened the previous night, including Lisa, was just a dream. Wyatt seems convinced they were just dreaming, but he gets out of bed wearing Lisa's underwear. Downstairs, Lisa calls both of them to have breakfast. As Lisa serves breakfast, she encourages Wyatt to stand up to Chet, saying it's affecting his virility. She walks out just as Chet comes into the kitchen and he takes the tasty breakfast Lisa made for Wyatt and smashes eggs in a pan. Chet notices Wyatt wearing the underwear and blackmails him again for it while Lisa angrily eavesdrops. Wyatt asks Chet what he wants, so Chet demands to have his VCR. Chet then takes his towel off and gives it to Wyatt, telling him to cover himself. Later, at the mall, Gary and Wyatt are testing scents in the perfume section when the attendant, Sue, mocks them. She can't believe they're shopping for their girlfriends, so Gary and Wyatt smugly correct her, referring to Lisa in a more mature implication. Meanwhile, Lisa shops for sexier underwear, affronting the sales lady with more daring inquiries. After a while, Max and Ian, accompanied by their girlfriends, spot Gary and Wyatt sitting on a bench a floor below. Max empties his slushy cup on the two boys below as people around them erupt into mean laughter. Unimpressed, the two girls discuss whether to dump or forgive Max and Ian for their behavior. They end up going with forgiveness after a phony show of remorse from their boyfriends. Soon enough, Max and Ian come across Lisa on the escalator, and they double back to follow her as she catches every guy's eye on the way. Outside the mall, Max and Ian try to flirt with an uninterested Lisa, who says she's waiting for her ride. Gary and Wyatt roll up loudly in a sports car, and Gary gets out to greet Lisa, getting a kiss from her. Lisa gets in the car to leave, inviting the speechless bullies to a party at Wyatt's house that night. In the evening, Lisa tries to calm down Wyatt, who worries about his parents finding out about the party. As Lisa manipulates the lights hands-free and changes clothes, she argues she's doing her best to give Wyatt a memorable party. Wyatt replies he'll be happy to party anywhere but his house. Lisa waves off his worries and leaves excitedly to pick up Gary. At the Wallace's house, Gary's parents, Al and Lucy, remark on how mature Lisa looks. Gary awkwardly introduces his parents, and Al asks the two where they're going. Lisa replies with a list of outrageously lewd activities she plans for the party, leaving Gary's parents appalled. Lisa defends Gary's admirable school record and his right to party, and that tossing off to magazines isn't enough. This prompts a screaming match between Gary and Lucy, which leads to Al attempting to call the police. However, Lisa points a revolver at Al and he relents with a nervous smile. On their way to Wyatt's place, Lisa apologizes to Gary and reveals that the revolver was just a toy. Gary is still upset that Lisa's antics might have just earned him long-term punishment, but she asks for his trust and states his parents don't know what happened. Back at the Wallaces, Al seemingly forgets who Gary even is. Later, at the Donnellys, Lisa continues to reassure an anxious Wyatt about having a few friends over for a party. When the doorbell rings, Lisa opens the door to behold what appears to be hundreds of teens waiting outside, clamoring for a party. Gary waves wide-eyed as Wyatt collapses in shock. The partygoers flood inside Wyatt's house, instantly cleaning off a spread of food on the table. Max and Ian arrive looking for the bar while their girlfriends lag and spot Lisa handing out the caviar. Meanwhile, Gary and Wyatt are holed up in the bathroom, agonizing over their inability to enjoy the party raging outside. While lounging at the bar, Max and Ian spot Lisa among the crowd, and they smile flirtatiously at each other. Elsewhere at the party, Max and Ian's girlfriends wonder if the house belonged to Lisa when they find Gary and Wyatt in the bathroom. The girls learn it's Wyatt's house, and the two boys bluff about being at parties constantly when the girls ask to use the bathroom. Gary lets them inside, admitting he and Wyatt know the girls' names, Hilly and Deb. The girls ask who Lisa is, and Gary says she's with them. Meanwhile, despite Max and Ian's insults, Lisa firmly establishes to them that she belongs to Gary and Wyatt. When Lisa says she'll do anything her creators ask her to, the two bullies exchange conniving looks. Back in the bathroom, Hilly and Deb excuse themselves for a minute while Gary and Wyatt huddle in the shower stall. The boys agree to make advances on the girls but still keep Lisa in mind should they fail. They peek out of the stall only to find two different girls waving at them. Downstairs, Hilly and Deb run into Lisa, who asks if they've met Gary and Wyatt. The two girls awkwardly confirm they did, and Lisa builds up the two boys in a suggestive way, to the girls' shock. In a restaurant, Wyatt's grandparents, Henry and Carmen, decide to pay him a visit at the house, assuming he's there alone. In Wyatt's room, Max and Ian put on apologetic faces to convince Gary and Wyatt to lend Lisa to them. Gary and Wyatt initially refuse, citing their deep loyalty to Lisa, but Max and Ian offer up Hilly and Deb in exchange. Soon after, Gary and Wyatt help Max and Ian create their own virtual girl, hacking into the government system once more. Outside, Lisa senses something strange, and, upon seeing the brewing thunderstorm, hurries back to the house. As the computer simulation goes haywire again, the house gets subjected to a number of weird phenomena, causing chaos at the party. While Max and Ian panic over the turbulent creation process, Gary and Wyatt sit back, calmly waiting for the result. When the chaos stops, they see a girl standing in the red-tinged doorway again. It turns out to be Lisa, who lectures Gary and Wyatt on staying true to themselves instead of trying to be big shots. She also points out they forgot to hook up the doll when the jumper cables make contact with an image of a missile on a magazine. A full-size ballistic missile then erupts from beneath the house into Wyatt's room and out the roof. Wyatt freaks out about having a missile in his bedroom just as Henry and Carmen arrive to find the house party in full swing. Afterward, Lisa catches Henry and Carmen making their way through the party and tries to be friendly. Seeing the state of the house, the old couple threatens to call the police, prompting Lisa to excuse herself. Lisa summons Wyatt downstairs for his grandparents, to Gary and Wyatt's utter shock. The two boys rush down to the kitchen, where Lisa shows them Henry and Carmen in a closet, smiling and seemingly frozen in time. As Gary and Wyatt leave, Lisa decides the boys need a challenge to bring out their courage and inner strength. Suddenly, two mutant bikers crash through the house, causing chaos and intimidating the partygoers. Max and Ian cower behind the bar fearing the intruders, deciding to abandon Hilly and Deb. One of the bikers causes Gary to fall down the stairs as he tries going up, and Wyatt runs up to him, panicking about the bikers in the house. Just then, more mutant gangsters break inside and prompt Gary and Wyatt to hide, walking through the fearful crowd and letting out inhuman screams. Somewhere in the house, Lisa finds Gary and Wyatt sheltered in a closet, refusing to come out and deal with the mutants. Lisa argues it's a chance to prove their bravery, but the boys slam the closet door in her face. As the boys mull over the weight of shamed versus dying, a mutant grabs Wyatt out of the closet, followed by Gary, who slammed into the wall with his friend. One mutant, wielding a shotgun, proceeds to mock Gary and Wyatt in front of the crowd. The mutants grab Deb and Hilly and start hurting them. Gary and Wyatt gather their courage and walk up to the mutants, hurling insults and telling the intruders to leave the house. Gary pulls out a revolver on the mutant holding Deb as Wyatt pries the shotgun from him. When the mutants prepare to leave in a surprisingly civil manner, Wyatt returns the shotgun to one of them. Once they're gone, Gary raves to Wyatt about their feat while carelessly waving the revolver around. Wyatt demands to know where Gary got a gun, so Gary says it's just a toy and shoots down a chandelier, realizing he's holding a real firearm. Hilly and Deb gawk at the boys admiringly as Lisa proudly watches them. That night, Hilly approaches Wyatt, the house now empty of partygoers. She marvels at his bravery and asks him to kiss her, to Wyatt's delight. At the same time, Deb frets with Gary over her inferiority to Lisa. Gary reassures her that Lisa is more like a sister to him and chooses Deb to be with. Deb then kisses Gary. The next morning, Chet arrives to find the house practically in shambles and discovers that it's snowing in his room. Furious, Chet heads over to Wyatt's room and sees only Gary sleeping with Deb. He points his gun at the two teens as Gary protects Deb. Chet then shoots the door of another room and catches Wyatt with Hilly. Chet grabs Wyatt by the collar, accompanied by verbal threats, causing Wyatt to bribe his brother with money again. Later downstairs, Chet berates Lisa for how the 14 seem to agree on the same wild story about her creation and the subsequent party. He also freaks out when he finds Henry and Carmen still frozen in the closet. Lisa advises Gary and Wyatt to take the girls home while she deals with Chet. The teens leave and Lisa confronts Chet about being disrespectful to Wyatt and Gary, and keeping quiet about everything that happened over the weekend. She also tells Chet to treat the boys with dignity and respect. Chet remains rude and challenges Lisa, to which she responds in a threatening manner. Meanwhile, Gary is driving Deb in a Ferrari when she speeds by a police cruiser. When the police gives chase, Gary speeds away, using the car's superior horsepower to skid through the streets. They barely make it across the railroad just as a passing train cuts off the police. Elsewhere, Hilly bids Wyatt goodbye and they kiss. As Hilly walks back to her house, Wyatt proclaims his love for her among the sprinklers. Around the same time, Gary is walking Deb to her house when he confesses to all his pretensions, wanting Deb to like him for who he is. Deb returns the affection and they kiss. Back at the Donnellys' kitchen, Chet has been turned into a talking mutant blob. Lisa tells Chet that she'll turn him back to normal if he promises to leave Wyatt and Gary alone. He agrees, and Lisa advises him that the effect will wear off in time. Gary and Wyatt return to the Donnellys in their sports cars and talk about whether Lisa would understand what they have to say. As they walk inside, the two cars dematerialize into thin air. The two boys run into mutant Chet, who apologizes to Wyatt and admits his love for his brother in between burps. Wyatt and Gary then find Lisa getting dressed upstairs, where they initiate their talk. Lisa is way ahead of them, happy at her boys finding girls they love and who love them back. She admits to being hurt, but seeing them straightened out is all she ever wanted. Lisa hugs them both and bids them goodbye at the doorway where she came from, disappearing in a puff of smoke. Just then, Wyatt's parents get out of their taxi while the missile retracts back to the ground, and the house repairs itself. Chet also returns to human form just as his parents walk through the door. Wyatt and Gary greet them downstairs, and when Wyatt's parents ask what they did for the weekend, the two boys give a lukewarm response. The next morning, at the Shermer High School gym, several boys are treated to the presence of their new gym teacher, who's none other than Lisa. She gives a command, and all the boys collapse.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.